The first sign that something was wrong came at 1432 Universal Time, when the Deep Space Monitoring Station Prometheus 7 detected massive gravitational distortions at the edge of the solar system. The readings were impossible. Energy signatures that large should have torn space apart, not delivered a fleet. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Wrath, watching as 10,000 Imperial warships materialized around him in perfect formation. The hyperspace jump had been flawless. His armada stretched across the void like a metal constellation, each vessel bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Behind him, his officers moved with quiet efficiency, running final system checks and preparing weapons arrays. "Report," Kethvar commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 300 conquered worlds. "All ships report ready status." "Admiral," his tactical officer responded. "Long-range sensors show the target system ahead. Third planet from the star appears to be their homeworld. We detect scattered orbital structures and what looks like primitive spacecraft." Kethvar nodded, studying the holographic display before him. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, seemingly defenseless. Intelligence reports had suggested these humans were barely beyond their own solar system. Their largest vessels appeared to be crude mining ships and research stations, nothing that could threaten even a single Imperial destroyer, let alone an armada of this size. "Begin the advance," he ordered. "Standard formation. I want the humans to see us coming. Let them understand the futility of resistance." The armada began its stately procession through the outer solar system. Each ship was a masterwork of Imperial engineering, some stretching over 5 kilometers in length. Their hulls gleamed with the dark metal that had conquered half the galaxy. Weapon ports lined their sides like the eyes of ancient predators. On Earth, emergency meetings were already underway in hidden bunkers and secure facilities. The world's governments had protocols for this exact situation, though most of their citizens didn't know these protocols existed. Deep beneath major cities, ancient communication systems hummed to life. Messages flashed between locations that officially didn't exist on any map. General Sarah Martinez stood in the primary command center, watching the tactical display with calm eyes. Around her, technicians worked at stations that looked decades more advanced than anything the public had ever seen. The walls showed the approaching Imperial fleet in perfect detail, each ship tracked and analyzed by systems the invaders couldn't detect. "Time to Neptune orbit?" she asked. 18 hours at current speed, her aide replied. "They're not hurrying. Probably want us to see them coming." Martinez almost smiled. "Let them have their parade. Are the packages ready?" "All systems green across the board. Quantum generators are charged, stealth fields are stable, and the fabrication yards are standing by." "What about civilian populations?" "All major population centers have been quietly moved to the deep shelters. As far as the surface knows, it's just another emergency preparedness drill. News networks are reporting a minor solar storm as the reason for the precautions." Admiral Kethvar watched Earth grow larger on his displays. The planet looked peaceful, almost inviting. A few orbital stations drifted in lazy orbits, small things that probably served as communications relays or weather monitors. He could see what looked like a space elevator extending up from the equator, a thin line catching starlight. Primitive but impressive for such a young species. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet." "Put it through." The main screen flickered, showing a middle-aged human male in what appeared to be a simple uniform. The man looked tired but not frightened. Behind him, Kethvar could see what looked like a basic command center with outdated displays and bulky equipment. "I am Secretary General Chen of the United Earth Government," the human said. "We detect your presence in our solar system. We ask for your intentions and hope for peaceful contact." Kethvar gestured for the communication channel to be opened. He stepped forward, making sure his massive frame and ceremonial armor were clearly visible. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of Imperial authority. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your world immediately and submit to Imperial rule. You have 1 rotation of your planet to comply. Refuse and your species will be eliminated." The human's expression didn't change. If anything, he looked slightly sad. "I see. We had hoped for a different outcome. Our people will need time to consider your offer." "You have 24 of your hours," Kethvar replied. "Use them wisely. Any attempt at resistance will result in immediate destruction." The transmission ended. Around the bridge, Imperial officers exchanged satisfied looks. Another easy conquest. Another primitive world that would learn to kneel before Imperial might. But General Martinez, watching from her hidden command center deep beneath the Earth's surface, was already giving orders that would change everything. Across the solar system, systems that had waited in silence for decades began to wake up. Asteroid mining stations started new excavation programs. Research platforms began deploying unusual equipment. And in the depths of space, things that looked like debris began to move with purpose. Admiral Kethvar's armada continued its advance, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Behind them, space looked empty and peaceful. Ahead, Earth continued its lazy rotation, apparently helpless before the approaching storm. Neither the Admiral nor his thousands of ships detected the subtle energy signatures now pulsing through quantum dimensions they didn't know existed. The mining equipment hidden throughout the asteroid belt was working around the clock, but not extracting ore. The research stations were conducting experiments, but not the kind any Imperial scientist would recognize. Earth's response to the ultimatum was exactly what Kethvar expected: confused chatter between government officials, frantic civilian broadcasts, and the movements of a few outdated military vessels. Everything confirmed their intelligence reports. These humans were decades behind Imperial technology. Their weapons were primitive projectile systems and basic energy weapons. Their ships were slow, clumsy things designed for transport rather than war. What the Imperial fleet couldn't detect were the thousands of fabrication systems now working in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. Components that had been stored for decades were being assembled into configurations that would have revolutionized Imperial science. Power cores that drew energy from dimensions beyond normal spacetime were being brought online. Weapons that existed in quantum superposition were being calibrated. The humans had learned long ago that the galaxy was full of predators. They had spent generations preparing for this day, building their true capabilities in secret while maintaining the appearance of a primitive, peaceful species. Every mining operation, every research station, every seemingly innocent orbital facility was part of an integrated defense network that spanned the entire solar system. As Admiral Kethvar's flagship crossed the orbit of Uranus, automated systems throughout human space completed their final preparations. The trap was set. All that remained was for the prey to walk into it. Admiral Kethvar studied the tactical display with growing confusion. His armada had now spent 16 hours approaching Earth, and the human response made no sense. Intelligence had predicted panic, desperate military mobilization, or at least some attempt at negotiation. Instead, he was observing what appeared to be normal civilian activity. "Status report," he commanded his intelligence officer. "Sir, we continue to monitor standard civilian communications traffic. Some increased chatter about emergency drills and solar weather, but nothing suggesting military preparation. We detect approximately 47 vessels in Earth orbit, mostly cargo haulers and what appear to be research platforms. Weapon signatures? Minimal, sir. Basic chemical propulsion, some primitive fusion drives. Their largest vessel appears to be a cargo ship about 800 meters long. We detect no energy weapons above Class 2, and their missile systems appear to be simple kinetic projectiles." Kethvar frowned. Either these humans were incredibly disciplined, or they truly were as primitive as reports suggested. Perhaps they simply couldn't comprehend the scale of what they faced. 10,000 Imperial warships represented more firepower than most species encountered in their entire history. What about their orbital defenses? Negligible, sir. We count maybe 30 defensive platforms, but they appear to be designed for asteroid deflection rather than military purposes. Each one masses less than one of our fighter craft. Meanwhile, 300 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Martinez was coordinating the largest military operation in human history from a command center that officially didn't exist. The facility had been carved from the ocean floor decades earlier, part of a global network of hidden installations that formed humanity's true defense infrastructure. "Report from Fabrication Complex Alpha," her aide announced. "Final assembly of the primary fleet is 96% complete. Quantum stealth systems are online and tested. Beta Complex? Weapons platforms are fully charged and positioned. The Imperial fleet won't detect them until activation. Gamma Complex? Dimensional anchor systems are ready. Once activated, they won't be able to jump to hyperspace within the solar system." Martinez nodded. watching the Imperial Armada's steady advance on the main display. Each enemy ship was tracked in real time by sensor networks the invaders couldn't detect. Human technology had taken a very different path from the galactic norm, focusing on quantum mechanics and dimensional manipulation, rather than the brute force approaches favored by most spacefaring civilizations. Signal from Mars Station, another operator reported. They're requesting permission to reveal the orbital shipyards. Negative. Maintain cover until the enemy reaches the activation point. How are our civilian populations? All major population centers are secure in the deep shelters. Surface activity is being maintained by automated systems and volunteer crews. To outside observers, it looks like normal activity with some emergency preparations. Admiral Kethvar's confusion deepened as his fleet passed Saturn. Long-range sensors showed Earth's response remained inexplicably calm. A few more ships had launched from the planet, but they appeared to be evacuation vessels rather than military craft. The orbital platforms had activated some kind of energy shields, but they were laughably weak by Imperial standards. Perhaps they're hoping we'll simply pass by, suggested his tactical officer. Some species refuse to believe they're really under attack until the bombardment begins. Possible, Kethavar agreed. Or they're planning some kind of surprise. Increase scanner intensity. I want every piece of debris in this system cataloged and analyzed. Sir, our scanners are already at maximum resolution. We're detecting normal asteroid activity, some automated mining equipment, and what looks like scientific research platforms. Nothing that could threaten even a single destroyer. What the Imperial scanners couldn't detect were the massive quantum signatures hidden throughout the solar system. Human stealth technology didn't just make objects invisible. It shifted them slightly out of phase with normal space-time. The asteroid mining equipment was real, but it wasn't extracting ore. Instead, it was harvesting raw materials and feeding them into fabrication systems that existed in quantum superposition. The scientific research platforms were actually weapons platforms with destructive capabilities that would have redefined Imperial understanding of physics. Each one drew power from zero-point energy generators and was armed with weapons that could manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Admiral, the communications officer called out. We're receiving another transmission from Earth. The same human appeared on screen, still looking tired but calm. His primitive command center showed no signs of panic or military preparation. Admiral Kethvar, Secretary General Chen said, our governments have reviewed your ultimatum. We respectfully decline your offer of surrender. However, we would still prefer to resolve this peacefully. We invite you to send representatives for negotiations. Kethavar's officers exchanged glances. The human's proposal was either incredibly naive or incredibly arrogant, perhaps both. There will be no negotiations, Kethvar replied. You have 8 hours remaining. After that, we will demonstrate why the Empire does not tolerate defiance. I understand, Chen said sadly. In that case, I feel obligated to inform you that you have been warned. What happens next is your choice, not ours. The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial bridge in puzzled silence. Warned about what? Kethvar studied the tactical display again, searching for any sign of hidden defenses or approaching reinforcements. Space around Earth remained obstinately empty, except for the pathetic collection of civilian vessels and research platforms. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, General Martinez was making final preparations. The Imperial fleet had now crossed the orbit of Jupiter and was approaching the optimal engagement zone. Every system in the solar defense network was online and ready. Quantum generators were charged to full capacity. Stealth fields were stable. The fabrication complexes had completed their work. All stations report ready, her aide announced. Waiting for your order. Not yet, Martinez replied. Let them get closer. We want them well inside the system before we reveal what we're really capable of. The Imperial fleet continued its advance, maintaining perfect formation. Admiral Kethvar felt a growing sense of unease despite the apparent weakness of the human defenses. Something about this situation felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what. His sensors showed nothing threatening, his intelligence reports confirmed human technological limitations, and his own fleet was the most powerful force ever assembled by the Empire. Perhaps the unease came from the humans themselves. Most species either surrendered immediately when faced with Imperial might, or fought desperately with whatever weapons they possessed. These humans seemed to be doing neither. They had refused surrender but shown no signs of military preparation. It was as if they were simply waiting for something. "Admiral," his science officer reported, "we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the outer system. Nothing threatening, but the patterns are unfamiliar. Elaborate. It appears to be some kind of industrial activity, automated mining perhaps, or materials processing. The signatures don't match anything in our databases, but they're very faint, probably just an unusual approach to resource extraction." What the Imperial fleet was actually detecting were the final preparations of humanity's true military infrastructure. Quantum fabrication systems were putting finishing touches on the largest fleet ever assembled by any single species. Weapons platforms that had waited in quantum superposition for decades were being brought into normal space. And deep within Earth's hidden command centers, the final targeting solutions were being calculated. The trap was nearly ready. The Imperial fleet was exactly where humanity wanted it. Soon, Admiral Kethvar would discover what happened when a galaxy's apex predators encountered a species that had spent centuries preparing for their arrival. But for now, space remained deceptively calm, and the Admiral's confusion continued to grow with each passing hour. Admiral Kethvar's fleet had just crossed the orbit of Mars when reality began to unravel around them. It started with what his sensors had identified as a small research station near Mars' trailing Lagrange point. The structure was roughly spherical, maybe 200 meters in diameter, barely worth noticing among the cosmic debris of the inner system. Kethvar had dismissed it as another example of primitive human engineering. Then it began to unfold. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out, voice tight with disbelief. "The research station, it's changing." On the main display, they watched as the small sphere separated into dozens of segments, each one extending outward on massive mechanical arms. Within minutes, what had appeared to be a modest research platform had transformed into a geometric fortress over 15 kilometers across. Its surface bristled with weapon arrays that registered power signatures beyond anything in Imperial databases. "Impossible," Kethvar whispered. "Our sensors would have detected that mass." "Sir?" The science officer interrupted, his voice shaking. "We're receiving similar transformations throughout the system, whatever those asteroid mining operations really were." The tactical display lit up like a festival celebration as dozens of installations revealed their true nature. Asteroids cracked open like flowers blooming in fast motion, revealing massive shipyards within their hollowed cores. What had appeared to be simple mining equipment transformed into construction facilities that dwarfed Imperial naval yards, and then the ships began to emerge. They rose from the hidden, shipyards like metal leviathans awakening from deep sleep. Each vessel was sleek and predatory, their hulls dark as the void between stars. But it was their size that made Admiral Kethvar's blood run cold. The smallest human warship was nearly twice the length of his flagship. The largest stretched over 30 kilometers from bow to stern, massive beyond anything the Empire had ever constructed. "Count them," Kethvar ordered, his voice barely steady. "Sir, I'm reading over 8,000 vessels, and more are still emerging from the construction facilities." 8,000? Kethvar stared at the display. "That's impossible. Intelligence reported no military infrastructure capable of supporting a fleet that size." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from everywhere. Every human vessel simultaneously." The main screen flickered, showing not the tired bureaucrat they had spoken with before, but a woman in a crisp military uniform. Behind her, Kethvar could see a command center that made Imperial installations look primitive by comparison. Holographic displays showed tactical information with a clarity and detail that shouldn't have been possible. "Admiral Kethvar," the woman said calmly, "I am General Sarah Martinez, commander of the Solar Defense Network. You have entered our space with hostile intent and threatened our people. This will not be tolerated." "Impossible," Kethvar snarled. "Our intelligence reports owe." "Your intelligence reports were carefully crafted," Martinez interrupted. "We have been monitoring galactic civilizations for over 2 centuries. We knew eventually someone would come to our system with conquest in mind. We prepared accordingly." Around the Imperial fleet, space itself seemed to be coming alive. What they had mistaken for cosmic debris was revealing itself as camouflaged defense platforms. Structures that had appeared to be communication relays were extending weapon arrays that hummed with barely contained energy. "Admiral," his science officer reported, voice pitched high with panic. I'm reading quantum signatures throughout the system. These aren't conventional ships. Their hulls are phasing in and out of normal space-time, and their weapons. Sir, their weapons are drawing power from sources I can't identify. On the screen, General Martinez continued speaking. Your empire has conquered many worlds through superior firepower and technology. But you made a critical error regarding humanity. You assumed that because we appeared primitive, we actually were primitive. Sir, the tactical officer called out, the human fleet is taking position around us. They're not using conventional propulsion. Their ships are simply appearing where they want to be. Kethvar watched in growing horror as human vessels materialized around his armada with impossible precision. They moved like schools of predatory fish, their formations fluid and perfect. Each ship seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, their hulls shimmering with energies that made Imperial sensors scream warnings. You see, Martinez continued, while your empire and others focused on bigger guns and thicker armor, humanity chose a different path. We studied the fundamental forces of the universe. We learned to manipulate space-time itself. We discovered ways to exist in quantum superposition, to draw energy from parallel dimensions, to phase matter in and out of reality at will. Impossible, Kethvar repeated, but the words sounded hollow even to him. Admiral, his engineering officer reported, I'm detecting massive power buildup from the human vessels. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Sir, I don't think our shields can stop whatever they're preparing to use. The human ships had completed their encirclement. Kethvar's 10,000 vessels, the pride of the Imperial Navy, were surrounded by a force that seemed to bend the laws of physics to their will. Worse, long-range sensors were now detecting additional human installations throughout the system. Earth itself was surrounded by orbital platforms that had been completely invisible until moments ago. Your 10,000 ships represent an impressive force by galactic standards, Martinez said. But you are facing a civilization that has had centuries to prepare for this moment. Every asteroid in our system, every research platform, every seemingly innocent space station was part of our defense network. We could have revealed ourselves decades ago and taken our place among the galactic powers. Instead, we chose to remain hidden, to watch and to prepare. Sir, the communications officer whispered, I'm reading similar signatures from the outer system. There are human installations around every planet, every major asteroid, every strategic point in the system. How did we miss all of this? Because they wanted us to miss it, Kethvar realized with dawning horror. This was all planned. Every piece of intelligence we gathered, every report about human limitations, it was all a lie. On the display, Martinez nodded as if she had heard his words. Quite correct, Admiral. We have been very careful to maintain the illusion of primitive technology, while we prepared our true capabilities. Your intelligence network saw exactly what we wanted them to see. The Imperial fleet found itself paralyzed by the magnitude of their situation. They had come expecting to conquer a primitive world with outdated weapons and crude spacecraft. Instead, they faced a technological civilization that seemed to treat the fundamental laws of physics as mere suggestions. Admiral, his tactical officer reported quietly, the human weapons are fully charged. I'm reading energy levels that could sterilize entire planets. Sir, we're completely outgunned. Kethvar stared at the tactical display, watching as human ships maintained their perfect formations around his fleet. Each enemy vessel registered power signatures that exceeded his flagship's total output. And there were 8,000 of them, with more still emerging from hidden facilities throughout the system. We tried to avoid this, Martinez said sadly. We could have revealed ourselves as a major power and taken our place in galactic politics. We could have built alliances, established trade relationships, perhaps even prevented wars. But we knew that eventually, someone would see our solar system as a target for conquest, so we prepared for that day. What do you want? Kethvar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Quite simple, Martinez replied. Turn your fleet around and leave our system. Return to your empire and tell them what you found here. Make it clear that Earth is not a target for conquest. And if we refuse? Martinez's expression didn't change. But something shifted in the quantum signatures surrounding the Imperial fleet. Every human weapon system suddenly showed full charge status, ready to fire. Then we demonstrate why hiding our capabilities was the wiser choice, she said quietly. Your move, Admiral. Admiral Kethvar made the worst decision of his career in that moment of stunned silence. Perhaps it was pride, or maybe the weight of 3 centuries of Imperial victories. Perhaps he simply couldn't accept that his magnificent armada could be outmatched by a species that had hidden in a single solar system. "All ships," he commanded. "Target the human vessels. Prepare for full bombardment. Show these primitives the price of defying the Empire." "Sir," his tactical officer protested. "The energy readings from their weapons—" "Fire!" Kethvar roared. The Imperial fleet opened fire with everything they had. 10,000 warships unleashed a barrage that could have shattered continents. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and antimatter missiles filled the space between the fleets with deadly energy. It was a display of firepower that had broken the will of entire civilizations. Human response was immediate and devastating. General Martinez didn't even blink as the Imperial barrage struck her fleet's shields. The defensive barriers absorbed the massive assault without so much as a flicker. When she spoke, her voice remained calm and professional. "Admiral Kethvar has made his choice. All units, you are authorized to engage. Minimum necessary force protocols are suspended. What happened next would be studied by military historians for generations, though few would believe the records without multiple confirmations. The human ships didn't return fire in any conventional sense. Instead, they simply erased their targets from existence. Admiral Kethvar watched in speechless horror as the lead ships of his battle formation simply vanished. Not destroyed, not exploded. They were there one moment and gone the next, as if they had never existed at all. Where mighty Imperial dreadnoughts had been, space showed only empty void and confused starlight. "Report," he screamed. "Sir, I'm reading quantum disintegration of our forward elements. The human weapons aren't destroying our ships, they're removing them from this dimension entirely. 17 vessels eliminated in the first volley. The human fleet moved with impossible precision, their ships phasing in and out of normal space as they engaged the Imperial Armada. They appeared next to Imperial vessels for just long enough to fire, then vanished before return fire could reach them. Each shot was perfectly targeted, each strike removed another ship from reality. "Shields up. All power to defensive systems," Kethvar ordered. "Sir, our shields have no effect. The human weapons are striking directly at quantum levels. They're bypassing our defenses entirely." On the tactical display, red icons representing Imperial ships were disappearing with mechanical regularity. The humans weren't fighting a battle out, they were conducting an extermination. Their weapons fired with perfect accuracy from impossible positions, each shot guaranteed to eliminate its target. Return fire. "Concentrate all weapons on the nearest human ship." The nearest human vessel absorbed the concentrated fire of 50 Imperial warships without any apparent effect. Its shields didn't flicker, its hull didn't heat. It simply ignored the barrage as if it were meaningless. Then it fired once, and all 50 attacking ships ceased to exist. "Admiral," his science officer reported with barely controlled panic. "I'm analyzing their weapon signatures. They're using dimensional manipulation to fold space around our ships. The vessels aren't being destroyed. They're being compressed into quantum singularities and ejected from normal space-time." Kethvar felt cold terror wash through him. This wasn't warfare as the Empire understood it. This was applied physics by a civilization that had mastered forces the Empire didn't even know existed. "Sir, the destroyer Squadron Zeta is requesting permission to withdraw." "Denied. All ships maintain formation and continue firing." But Squadron Zeta never received the order. 17 destroyers vanished simultaneously as a human battleship fired what appeared to be a single weapon discharge that split into multiple targeting beams. Each beam touched a ship for perhaps a microsecond before the vessel simply ceased to exist. The battle, if it could be called that, continued for exactly 17 minutes. The human fleet moved through the Imperial formation like ghosts made of metal and energy. They appeared wherever they wanted, fired with perfect precision, and vanished before any effective response could be mounted. Imperial ships tried every tactic in their databases. They attempted to ram the human vessels, only to phase harmlessly through hulls that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They fired spread patterns to deny the humans maneuvering room, but the enemy ships simply shifted into parallel space and continued their attack from angles that shouldn't have been possible. They tried concentrated fire on single targets, only to watch their most powerful weapons pass harmlessly through human ships that flickered in and out of reality. They attempted to retreat, but found their hyperspace drives disabled by some kind of dimensional anchor system that locked them into normal space. Admiral, his communications officer called out. The human commander is requesting a direct channel. Put her through, Kethvar said numbly. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically at stations that reported the systematic destruction of everything they had sworn to protect. General Martinez appeared on the screen again. Behind her, the human command center showed tactical displays that tracked every Imperial vessel in real time. Their technology was so advanced it bordered on magic. Admiral, you now have fewer than 3,000 ships remaining, she said matter-of-factly. Your fleet is being eliminated at a rate of approximately 40 vessels per minute. At this pace, you have roughly 75 minutes before total destruction. Impossible, Kethvar whispered. Nothing could destroy an Imperial Armada this quickly. We tried to warn you, Martinez replied. We could have avoided this entirely. But you chose to attack a civilization that has spent centuries preparing for exactly this scenario. Sir, the tactical officer reported, we've lost 60% of our capital ships. The remaining vessels are reporting weapons failures, shield collapses, and engine malfunctions. The human weapons seem to be targeting our technology directly. Admiral, Martinez continued, I'm going to make this offer once. Surrender your remaining ships and we will spare your crews. You will be held until arrangements can be made for prisoner exchange. Continue fighting, and we will continue eliminating your vessels until none remain. Kethvar looked at his tactical display. Less than 3,000 ships remained of his mighty armada. Each minute that passed saw more red icons disappear, as human weapons removed Imperial vessels from existence with surgical precision. How? He asked quietly. How did your species develop such capabilities? Because we had to, Martinez replied. Because we knew that eventually someone would come to our system with conquest in mind. We spent generations developing defenses that couldn't be overcome by conventional force. We built weapons that operate on principles your science doesn't recognize. We prepared for this day because we knew it was inevitable. Sir, his communications officer interrupted. The human weapons have stopped firing. They're waiting for your response. Kethvar stared at the tactical display. His proud armada had been reduced to a broken remnant in less than 20 minutes. The humans had demonstrated technological superiority so complete that continued resistance was not just futile, it was suicide. But the final horror came when he realized the truth. The humans had been holding back. They could have eliminated his entire fleet in the first volley if they had wanted to. Instead, they had drawn out the engagement to send a message, to show the Empire exactly what they were capable of when forced to fight. I surrender, Admiral Kethvar said quietly. All Imperial ships stand down. Cease fire and prepare for capture. On the screen, General Martinez nodded. A wise decision, Admiral. Your crews will be treated according to civilized standards, and you will have an opportunity to deliver a message to your Empire about what they found here today. 3 days after the battle that would reshape galactic politics forever, Admiral Kethvar found himself in a comfortable but secure facility on what the humans called Luna. The moon base was another revelation of human technological capability. The installation stretched deep into the lunar core, containing facilities that could house millions while maintaining perfect environmental conditions. His remaining crews were being held in similar facilities throughout the system. All 847,000 survivors were being treated well, given medical care, proper food, and quarters that exceeded the standards of most Imperial installations. It was a kindness that made Kethvar's defeat even more bitter. Admiral, a human guard announced, General Martinez would like to speak with you. Kethvar was escorted through corridors that demonstrated yet another aspect of human advancement. The walls showed holographic displays of Earth's surface, but the images moved and changed as if viewed through windows. Children played in parks under blue skies while adults went about their daily lives, apparently unaware that their planet had just repelled the largest invasion force in galactic history. General Martinez waited in a comfortable office overlooking one of the lunar valleys. Through the transparent walls, Kethvar could see human ships moving between installations with casual efficiency. Each vessel represented technology that could revolutionize Imperial science. Please sit, Martinez said, gesturing to a chair that adjusted itself to accommodate his frame. I wanted to speak with you before we arrange your transportation home. Home, Kethvar repeated bitterly. I failed to conquer a primitive world with the largest armada ever assembled. The Empire does not welcome failure. Perhaps, Martinez said. but you're going to deliver a message that might prevent unnecessary wars in the future. Both your people and mine prefer peace when it's possible. You could have destroyed us completely, Kethvar said. Your weapons could have eliminated every ship in the first minute of combat. Why didn't you? Martinez considered the question carefully. Because we're not conquerors, Admiral. We never wanted to dominate the galaxy or impose our will on other species. We just wanted to be left alone to develop our civilization in peace. Then why hide your capabilities? Why maintain the illusion of primitive technology? Because we learned early that the galaxy is full of predators, Martinez replied. Species that see any sign of advanced technology as either a threat to be eliminated or a prize to be conquered. We chose a different path. She activated a holographic display showing the solar system. Kethvar could see the true extent of human infrastructure for the first time, A's installations around every planet, massive orbital habitats, construction facilities that dwarfed anything the Empire had built. We've been watching galactic civilizations for over 2 centuries, Martinez continued. We've seen the pattern. Strong species conquer weak ones. Advanced civilizations enslave primitive ones. We decided to appear weak while becoming strong. Your technology, Kethvar said quietly. How far advanced are you, really? That's classified, Martinez smiled. But I can tell you that what you experienced was our defensive capability. We've spent generations developing ways to protect ourselves without conquering others. We have weapons that could sterilize entire star systems. But we prefer to use technology that simply removes threats without causing unnecessary destruction. The ships you eliminated still exist, Martinez interrupted. In a pocket dimension where time moves very slowly. Your crews are unharmed and will be returned when we establish proper diplomatic relations with your empire. We don't believe in unnecessary killing. Kethvar stared at her in amazement. You mean my ships and crews could be returned? Eventually, yes. When your empire agrees to formal recognition of human sovereignty and signs appropriate non-aggression treaties. The holographic display changed to show various human installations throughout the galaxy. Kethvar realized with shock that there were dozens of Thamao hidden bases, research stations, and monitoring posts scattered across Imperial space. We've been among you for decades, Martinez explained. Learning your languages, studying your cultures, monitoring your military capabilities. We hoped to establish peaceful contact eventually, but we needed to understand what we were dealing with first. You have bases in Imperial space? We have bases in most major civilizations' space, Martinez corrected. Always hidden, always careful not to interfere with local development. But we've been watching and learning. She handed him a data crystal that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. This contains a complete record of the battle, along with analysis of the technologies we deployed. Your scientists will find it educational. Why give this to us? Because knowledge promotes understanding, and understanding promotes peace. We want your empire to know exactly what they encountered here. We want them to understand that humanity is not a threat to anyone who doesn't threaten us first. And if the empire decides you're too dangerous to be allowed to exist? Martinez's expression grew serious. Admiral, you've seen a fraction of our defensive capabilities. What you haven't seen is what we're capable of when we decide to go on the offensive. We mapped every Imperial installation in 3 sectors while your fleet was approaching Earth. We could eliminate them all in less than an hour if we chose to. The threat was delivered quietly, almost casually, but Kethvar felt its weight. These humans could destroy the Empire whenever they wanted. Instead, they were offering partnership. What do you want from us? He asked. Simple coexistence, Martinez replied. Trade if you're interested, cultural exchange if you're willing, mutual defense agreements if needed. But most importantly, we want the galaxy to know that some species prefer diplomacy to conquest. The Empire will demand technological exchanges, and will consider requests on a case-by-case basis. Some of our technology could revolutionize galactic civilization. Other technologies are too dangerous to share until galactic society matures considerably. Martinez stood and walked to the window overlooking the lunar surface. Human vessels moved between installations in perfect choreography, each one representing capabilities that could reshape interstellar politics. Admiral, humanity has reached a crossroads. We can no longer hide our capabilities from galactic civilization. What happened to your fleet will be noticed, analyzed, and discussed throughout known space. We have to decide how we want to interact with our neighbors. And what have you decided? We want to be good neighbors, she said simply. We want to trade fairly, share knowledge responsibly, and defend ourselves effectively. We want other species to prosper and grow, but we will not tolerate conquest, slavery, or genocide. Those days are ending. Kethavar absorbed this information slowly. The humans were offering to become the galaxy's protector species, using their overwhelming technological advantage to enforce peace rather than expand their own territory. Your message to the Empire is simple, Martinez continued. Humanity offers friendship to those who approach in peace and destruction, to those who come with hostile intent. We hope your leaders choose wisely. She gestured toward the data crystal. That contains everything your Empire needs to understand what they're dealing with. Use it wisely. And if the Empire chooses war? Martinez turned back to him with sad eyes. Then the Empire will discover that humanity's patience has limits. We've spent centuries preparing to defend ourselves, Admiral. We're prepared to do whatever becomes necessary. A human aide entered the office and whispered something to Martinez. She nodded and turned back to Kethavar. Your ship is ready for departure. You'll be escorted to the edge of Imperial space and released. The journey will give you time to study the information we've provided and prepare your report. As Kethavar stood to leave, Martinez offered one final comment. Admiral, we know this experience has been difficult for you, but you have an opportunity to prevent wars that could devastate the galaxy. I hope you'll use that opportunity wisely. Kethavar was escorted to a transport that looked nothing like any Imperial vessel he had ever seen. The ship was small but elegant, its hull seeming to bend light around it. As they lifted off from Luna, he looked back at Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel. 3 days ago, he had commanded the largest military force in galactic history. Today, he was returning home as the messenger of a species that could reshape the galaxy with a thought. The irony wasn't lost on him, but as his transport jumped to hyperspace, carrying him toward an empire that would soon learn it was no longer the dominant force in the galaxy, Admiral Kethavar found himself hoping that his leaders would choose wisdom over pride, because he had seen what happened when humanity was forced to defend itself, and he never wanted to see it again.